Federation is calling for officers to be routinely armed with tasers in an effort to prevent brutal attacks. It comes as 2 more officers were hurt in southwest London at the weekend. A warning: the following video shows the police officers being assaulted. One officer is seen being kicked to the ground and narrowly avoids being hit by a bus. She sustained head injuries, and her male colleague suffered cuts to his face after being dragged across the road. The incident happened after a routine traffic stop on Saturday evening in Merton in southwest London. But just how prevalent are such attacks, and how much difference would it have made if the officers had had tasers with them? With me now is Peter Kirkham. He's a former detective chief inspector with the Met. Hi, thanks for joining us. Absolutely shocking videos. It
is, and unfortunately that's not unusual these days. The drop kick's a bit unusual, but the level of violence being used is not unusual at all. We've seen various pieces of footage recently, but increases in numbers of assaults on police and increasing in the nature and blatancy of them as well. I'm concerned that people are thinking they can get away with using the police as punch bags.
So how will tasers help?
The taser gives you the ability to control a situation from a bit of distance. If we take that little scenario there, if the officers had taser, first of all, they stop a vehicle, they're dealing with the driver, it becomes apparent he's going to get nicked or whatever, and he legs it. Well, the taser may not have stopped that, so there's then going to be a chase. The taser's not going to stop the chase. Nothing's going to stop the chase except physically catching up with them. But if you then corner them, or if one officer brought them to the floor as here, the second officer, instead of then joining in to try and restrain someone on the ground, would be able to stand at a distance with the taser.
So let's have a look at that video, should we? And then maybe you can talk us through what should and how
could have happened.
Could be happening.
Yeah.
I wonder if you can see it.
Yeah, you've got the officer chases the guy and brings him to the floor, and then there's a bit of a struggle on the ground. I think was it rolled on past that? I'm not sure. Yeah, and then the second officer, she's going to assist her colleague and trying to sort of find a bit to grab hold of and restrain, and she's taken out at that point. But if she'd been able to have the taser, she'd have been, she wouldn't have had to be so close in and got involved in that physical fight. But also, if the second person had come, the taser could have been used to keep them at bay as well. So it probably wouldn't have been easy to control that situation with just 2 officers and 2 or 3 people fighting. That's always going to be difficult.
Sure.
But it would have given them more of a chance, for sure.
What do you say to those who argue that a taser is a gateway weapon to potentially officers being armed?
That's simply nonsense. At the moment, in the continuum of force from empty-handed techniques through CS and batons, there's then a gap to firearm, and the taser fills that gap in the middle. It can be used if someone's got a bladed implement. Now, it should always be deployed with a firearm as backup, because sometimes they don't work or don't connect properly. But it fills that gap, and it usually will work and will usually deal with someone with a bladed weapon. It will take them to the ground and the weapon away from them. Somebody with a big lump of wood or a pickaxe handle or something, or somebody just fighting, just being very violent, it fills that gap in the continuum of force. So I personally think we've reached the point where all patrol officers need to have taser now, and then the firearms are the backup with armed response vehicles such as we have, and I think we need more of those as well.
Body cameras?
The body cameras, they record the evidence, but the evidence, is it a deterrent on these jobs? No, it isn't.
Is it not?
No, we see this. You know, officers have got body cams, they're still going to get attacked, they're still getting attacked. But we seem to have got this situation where we police by consent in this country, not by force. We only had 144,000 police officers in England and Wales. Before the cuts, we got about 122,000 now. Well, there's about 60 million people in the country. So, you know, that number of police officers cannot possibly police by force. The police by consent is people want to be policed, they want safety in public space, they want criminals out of their communities, and the vast majority of people do. But we've always had resistance to officers when they've been arresting somebody or whatever, but we're seeing different stuff now. That particular instance, yes, that was sort of resistance around an arrest, but we're seeing officers just being randomly attacked. We're seeing officers being called into fake situations to be attacked.
As you saw in Manchester.
And this sort of thing is going on, and it's increasing. And we seem to have lost this sort of contract, and we really need the government. The government keeps speaking, good words, we support the police and all that, but they're not standing up and condemning that. Where's the Home Secretary? Where's anybody from the government condemning that attack or any of the attacks we've seen? There were officers, two or three officers stabbed in the north end of Islington a few weeks ago. No mention from anybody. But the slightest little thing the police do, all the MPs are on the TV sort of criticising the police. There is no visible vocal support for the police. They could do that, they could do it tomorrow if they wanted to. The fact they don't do it makes me think they don't want to, and that takes us back to why does this government dislike the police so much?
Peter Cotham, thank you. Still to come on the programme for you, very latest sport.